Welcome, everybody. Today we have Tresa Rivera to be interviewed by me. Welcome, Tresa. So good to have you here.
It's so lovely to be here. I'm so excited to chat with you. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so excited because we need to know more about you. You have literally exploded on Instagram because you do the most amazing reels. You do hypnotherapy and human design. So that's how everyone can find you. It's human design hypnotherapy on Instagram. And oh my gosh, like, of course, you're a manifester and a splenic manifester. And of course, I've been watching you and sharing your reels everywhere because I'm like, I don't often share, but I'm like, oh my goodness, this chick is hilarious. She knows what she's doing, and you're living your life as a manifester in human design. So, let's start, guys. So today this is going to be a little bit about human design, about I want to know about hypnotherapy. You know me, I'm going to go into everything and anything and randomly who knows where we're going to go because that's the way that we roll, projectors and manifestors. And welcome. And thank you for being here. So, can we start with who are you? Where did you come from? Like, and like you started off, I know a little bit about your story. Like, you went to hypnotherapy for trauma, you were like ill, you'd gone through so much stuff. And then 3 sessions later, right? Like, I'll let you tell the story, but I got goosebumps when I was reading that. And then you bring in human design. So, hypnotherapy, human design. Tell us a little bit about how this started for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I, like a lot of people in our world, in the spiritual community, I've been a self development junkie for years. I was raised by really good parents, but I had some serious trauma in my adolescence. And that trauma kind of, you don't move past it, most people, right? You've got all of these deeply repressed emotional wounds. And I had gone through a type of sexual trauma in my adolescence, and it really tinted my experience from there. I tried a lot of things. I tried, traditional therapy. I tried medication. I tried alcohol and weed. I did all of the things, right? And then I got into self development, and I really started to like be aware of what I was thinking. I started to get into meditation, and still underneath all of it, there was this trigger. There was this deep, I call it my emotional prison. It's like no matter what I did, it would suck me back in and it would pull me back into that deep, dark, horrific place that I just wanted to be free of. And so when I did start to do hypnotherapy, it was actually my sister, who is an emotional projector, who started to study hypnotherapy. And when she got her credentials, she was like, I need to practice on someone. And I was like, I guess, I was really in that space of like, I know so much about self development. Like, I know everything about Abraham Hicks and Joe Dispenza. Like, I don't need anything. Right. But really, I was very wounded. And so, yeah, within my first three hypnotherapy sessions, my entire life had changed. I found myself in a space of peace and calm. I found myself able to live the teachings of all of these great gurus that I had up to that point conceptualized. I hadn't been able to live, but it's because really was able to like fully process my trauma. Right before that, right at my first Saturn return, I in my second pregnancy, I had a 1 in a million autoimmune disease. It was horrific. Victoria, horrific. It's one of those things where it's like, it's a nightmare. I literally had blood blisters all over my body. My body was allergic to my son's hormones. And the doctors told me that I would have that same autoimmune every time I got my period basically for the rest of my life. They said I would break out in blood boiling blisters all over my body when I, got my period. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And so that is when during the time where I was like going down the rabbit hole of meditation and really learning a lot more about self development. And that's around the time where my sister was like, ironically, the timing of everything, and so it was hypnotherapy that healed my wounds. And when I realized what was going on inside of myself, that's what I was like, I need to learn everything about what is this, right? I want to do this for other people. And shortly after I got my credentials with the American Board of Hypnotherapy and I started my own hypnotherapy business, that's when I found human design. And it changed everything for me because up to that point, I was treating all of my clients the same. And when I found human design, it was this like, holy crap, And so that's when I started to go to human design school, and I started to learn everything about every type, every chart. I wanted to be able to sit down and know the person. And I've been using human design in my hypnotherapy practice for 4 years. And I am to the point now where I can look at anybody's human design chart and tell you how you're messed up, what your emotional wounds are, what to expect in a hypnotherapy session, and then also give you a lot of really practical and helpful tips and tools on how to start deconditioning back into the person that you're designed to be. So it's a little bit complicated, and also it's the most simple thing in the entire world. But I truly believe that this is like my life's calling and my life's purpose. And this is what I came here to do. We're going through a spiritual evolution. And I know that people like you know this. And we're here to wake up. We are here to heal not just our own childhood wounds, but we're here to heal our ancestral lineage. We're here to heal past life wounds. And we are here to change the way that our parents raised us. And so this work is massive, and it is an absolute honor for me to get to impact people through the beautiful platform of social media, right? So thank you. Thank you for letting me share share my backstory.
And, I don't know about you, but when I first found out I was a projector, and it makes me feel emotional every time I talk about this, I went to bed that night crying because I had pain and pleasure. The first thing was I was absolutely ecstatic that I realized that I wasn't broken because as a hairdresser, a mum of two, going through a spiritual awakening, being brought up Catholic with all these sets of rules and, expectations of my future, great parents, but of course limited in what they know about expansion, all the things. And oh my gosh, I went to me and I was like, oh my God, I've been burning out my whole entire life because I've been trying to keep up because I see myself as very energetic. I see myself as working the first person there, the last person to leave, the hardest working one. And I was just going home and because hairdressers work really hard and going home and literally lying on the couch, drinking a bottle of wine or two and just passing out and wanting the world to leave me alone. So I used alcohol. So I would say I was an alcoholic because I was using alcohol, caffeine, cigarettes to actually for years and years and constantly burning out and like being such a stressor. So I went to bed when I found out because I was literally like, oh my God, I went down this rabbit hole of trying to find myself. I went through deep depression. My second born child was a son called Christian, ironically. He's got a manifest generated children, and the boy's got the defined ego center. All right. So he's a sacral, but I'm like, whew, he came in sunny side up, literally posterior, and he is my awakening. So it's funny, the second child, there's something with that. And I had to decide, what am I going to do? So anyway, found human design, went to bed crying because I realized I wasn't broken. I was just different. And I've got generator mum, managing dad, emotional mum who's dumped a lot of her emotional stuff on me being an empath. I did that for love. I'll be your emotional baggage. And then I was absolutely petrified. So I was relieved, but then I was petrified because how the fuck am I going to work 3 hours a day and make a living when I'm working 6 at $30 an hour in New Zealand and barely can buy a coffee? How am I going to? So I was like absolutely petrified when I found out about human design. And I know that's a common reaction. It's like, yay, this is my blueprint. I'm different. And then, oh shit, where do I start? I've got kids. I'm a projector or I'm a manifester. And you're telling me I don't need to do anything? Like, what? Like, so I'm wondering, is that similar to what happened to you? Were you kind of like, being a manifester, right? 8%, I love manifestors. I get all like, I love you. Like, I love having manifestors in my field. But you're so unique. You're 8% of the world, right? Like, just to generally speak there. But how did you react? Like, you've done the hypnotherapy, you've gone through this healing, this deep healing, funnily
Yeah.
enough, with your sister. That always happens. And then you're like, I'm a manifester. How do I deal? Because you've created a really successful business. You're real, you're funny, you're hilarious, you're amazing, very creative. But of course, there's a lot of manifestors that come to me and go, I don't want to do it the way the generators do. I don't want to do, like, I'm done. I'm done with how this world, the system is. They get angry, So how did that land for you, if you don't mind me asking? I know it's a very broad question, but whatever riffs through you there.
Yeah, 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 I cried. I cried when I first found out that I have a closed and repelling aura. So it was really sad for me. There is an aspect of grief. What I want everybody to understand is what we call homogenization in human design. And this basically means that we're all raised to believe that we're the same. Oh, everybody needs 8 hours of sleep and everybody needs 3 meals a day. And this is good for everybody. And this is bad for everybody. And it really is a lie. And so when you start to learn human design, it's the science of differentiation. And it gives you, there's a couple of different things we're dealing with. First of all, we do deal with emotional wounds, and emotional wounds are often around the things that we are that we deny, right? So I have a very defined ego, and I had been denying that my entire life. I would never do what I wanted to do because I was a very conditioned manifester who was
I have
taught
to
that
say that's why I love you so much, because your ego. I love define egos. I'm like, you carry on.
Yeah. Yeah, but you learn when you have a really defined ego that when you are confident and big and strong, you get in trouble and people don't like that. And so you develop all of these emotional wounds around being something you're not, right? And then on the other side of it, your conditioning is the stuff that you don't have that you try to think you're supposed to have, like me and you who don't have defined sacrals like generators. And then we overwork because we are lying to ourselves and telling ourselves that we should work that way, right? So much of this comes from deep conditioning within every single type. So manifestors condition the world into going out and getting things. And this is some of the biggest conditioning in society because manifestors make such a huge impact. So when a manifestor goes out and gets something, everybody looks at them and goes, ooh, ah, a manifestor. And the manifestor goes, you can do it too. Just go out and get it, right? So there's this lie in our world that says if you want something, you have to do it and make it happen yourself. And that is one of the most hurtful, detrimental things for the projector because it doesn't work for you that way. And so you find out you're a projector in human design, and it's like, oh shit, I've been taught my entire life that I have to go out and do things. And then generator conditioning says, well, no pain, no gain. Generator conditioning says you got to keep going and you got to keep working. You have to work long and hard and you got to do things you don't want to do and suffer through it, right? And so now you're a projector and you're going, oh shit, simply because nobody ever taught you the rules on how to play your game as a projector. And the second you understand the rules of the game to being a projector, that's when you really step into alignment, body, mind, and soul. And you really do not operate the way that other people do, right? So me as a manifester, I wish that we could just do like a 30-second time warp back to the first day I found out I was a manifester so everybody can see how deeply conditioned I was. A different person. I was a night and day. Human design hypnotherapy, my Instagram page was not created by that version of me at all because I was such a conditioned manifester. I was so afraid of getting in trouble. Everything I said, everything I did, everything I touched, everything I was in deep fear of criticism, judgment, losing people, right? Because that's what happens to a manifester. There's two people in this world, right? There's people like you who are magnetized by our bigness. But the majority of people really are repelled by manifestors. And so when I first found out I was a manifester, there was a deep sense of like, this isn't fair. I don't want this. I don't want a repelling aura. I want to be a generator, right? And then there's also a sense of everything in my entire life makes sense. Every time I've ever walked into a room and nobody talks to me and people seem to just run away, and I'm like, I'm so nice, like, person in the world. And all of a sudden so the more that I started to like decondition and actually apply, not just conceptualize the teachings of human design, I'm finally to that point where I'm like, I love my design. Like I wouldn't trade it for the entire world, but it did take me, I'm not going to lie. It took me a while to get here and I still have generator envy, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I'm not going to lie either. Yesterday, I completely overgave. So, I mean, the thing is, you learn it, but there's this deconditioning process. And this is what you help people with. I feel like you collapse the timelines so then they can actually learn it and do it and be it and integrate it quicker. Like, so for me, I learned about human design about 4 years ago. Actually, maybe longer. Time is really flying. And for the last 2 years, I've been in the actual experiment. So observing myself a lot. And, for 2 years, I have like doubled my income. My dreams are coming true, are always coming true. My relationship to my 5-1 emotional generator husband is completely different because we were always, why can't you hear me? And I was like, why can't he see that I'm emotional? What I don't understand because I can feel everything. So my whole world has completely changed. But yesterday, I overgave. So I overgave like a mofo. And today I am emotionally hungover. Today I'm tired. I'm like, I am tired. I went to bed at like 8 p.m. And I get up real early and have my time to myself. But I know that I'm trying to be a generator still in some areas of my life. I can't say I'm a perfectly aligned projector because that would be bullshit. Like I'm always working on myself. And in this world of, I call it sacral soup, some of my sacrals have got, the emotionals have sometimes get a little bit insulted. I'm not trying to insult you. This world is a sacral soup and it's fun for a while. It's like a party. It's like a mosh pit. But I need to take myself out of the sacral soup to detoxify because even in my house with 3 sacrals, right? 2 of them emotionals, but they've all got sacral motors. Quite often I'm like, can you all just leave for an entire day? Because I need you off the property because I sleep alone. I never sleep with my emotional husband, which is crazy because I love him to bits, but I'm like, I can't. You're vibrating next to me, man. Like, so it's really interesting getting the emotional hangover because I overgave because here I am thinking I've got to mimic or like be in with all of these people, mostly many gens and generators, obviously. I actually am attracting a whole lot of projectors, but they're like, people are coming to me and they're like, more in my 5 line. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, what did I just do? And it's literally going into an unconscious old patterning. And I feel like this is where the hypnotherapy could really help because that collapsing of, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that collapsing of that timeline to go rather than going, oh, it's this forever thing. It's like, hang on, where am I overgiving? Why am I overgiving? I'm thinking this goes back to childhood. And even you said the ancestral, I work a lot with the ancestral as well. And it's, if the generations before me were repressed as women, right? And they certainly were in my family. Me and my sisters all psychic mediums. We're all like galactic travelers, all these things. And my mom and my grandma, my great grandmother were like very much give it up to God. Do not mention it surface level. And I still experience that with my mom. So it's kind of interesting to go, this conditioning residue that is constantly coming in. Like, it's not like you align to your design and then you're perfect forever, right? It's because we're always getting conditioned. So
100%. And not only that, but what human design is, it's literally about our genetics. Human design is a genetic coding system. And where do our genetics come from? Well, our genes come from our parents and our grandparents, our, great grandparents. It literally is our trauma being passed down genetically. Right. And so, and now all of a sudden, universe spirit puts us in the perfect time, perfect space, in these perfectly designed bodies to experience our own wounds that oftentimes are the same as the ancestral wounds, right? I mean, just knowing what I know about your design in the top of my head and the years of experience and clients that I've worked with, I would assume that a lot of this pattern actually has more to do with your open ego than it has to do with your open sacral, because the open ego, especially in a projector, says, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough now? Do you see me now? Well, maybe if I do a little bit more, then you'll see me. Maybe if I give a little bit more, then you'll recognize me and then I'll be good and then I'll be worthy, right? And so now we have this nasty combination of an open sacral that doesn't know when enough is enough and an open ego that is always trying to prove its worth and its value. And now you have this crisis thing in your incarnation cross, not just in your profile, but in that gate 36 in your personality earth. And so now you're kind of being called upon to help people out of crisis, and you don't know what enough of that is because you're trying to prove your worth and your value as to be seen and all of those things. And so we all it's interesting how so much of this stuff can be looked at in these patterns and in these chunks, and underneath that is always either a repressed negative emotion, a pattern of emotions, or a limiting belief. And these could be created in your early childhood. They can be created at the moment of birth. They can be created in utero. They could have been passed down from an ancestor, so on and so forth. And I have never thought about it like that, collapsing timelines, but you are 100% correct.
Mhm.
We are absolutely working on the timeline. We are collapsing those timelines because the way that your neurology works is like a string of pearls. And so you experience this big, overwhelming emotion that says rejection,
Mhm.
betrayal, whatever it is, fear, right? And the brain highlights the chemicals that are being pulled out in that moment. Well, when you can't process that experience fully, the unconscious mind represses it, it holds on to it for later. And the next time that negative emotion comes out, the brain links the two events together. And so as we work through hypnotherapy and we start to regress back into those memories, back with those emotions, all of a sudden we get to cut that string of pearls so that the past negative emotions no longer affect or trigger your current emotional state of being, therefore disrupting the entire behavioral pattern like magic.
And it's real interesting because when we go into this whole unconscious state, so I can feel it. I can feel, and this is what I love about authority. And I know you've got this really amazing masterclass coming up about authority and strategy, I believe. Maybe, yeah. And so, like, it's really interesting because I have done the human design teachings with Jenna Zoe, all the things, but I know that's not my niche, right? That's why I get experts I recommend experts to my clients and stuff because I don't want to be going in and it just does not light me up to look at all the gates and all the different things. I'm 3-5, so I'm like rip, shit, and bust. I'm into like everything. So, but what I do focus on very deeply with my clients is the authority, the strategy, obviously the aura, and whether they're like, the centers. So, and the personality, because I love the personality profiling. I think that's ridiculously accurate. It's like a star sign. It's like, oh, well, yep, you're a Virgo. Yep, you're a Sagittarius. So for me, I do the basics. And I believe that to go deeper into that, you do need to go into the depths with someone like yourself who's like, okay, well, we've got these pearls, let's cut them, let's go deeper. So the hypnotherapy works so perfectly with it. Oh my gosh, there's just so many thought forms going because of my open head right now. But it's like just kind of bringing that in. It's like coming into yourself and actually going, we are being conditioned every freaking day. And when we go into that unconscious mind, and I know you've got all the scientific stuff with that. For me, it's just like what I've experienced. But that unconsciousness is very much like I've just got some throat stuff happening right now with my own issues going on. But it's like I'm going unconscious right now. But because I'm starting to go my not self theme. I'm starting to get bitter. I'm starting to feel tired. I'm starting to, oh shit. I'm now on the hamster wheel. Oh no, now I'm high. So my whole point of that whole random riff of reading the energy is I've got to know when I'm just about to go unconscious. And I'll say to my husband, I'm leaving. Like, oh my God, I can feel it. I'm going. And if I don't get out of the sacral soup, or if I don't stop overgiving, or if I don't get enough sleep or water, like there's all these specific things that I need personally as a projector, as a human, to put into form before I get lost. And I get lost in other people, literally. So yesterday I'm giving, I love it. I'm in it. There's a sacral. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like 3 hours of full blown coaching in these sacrals. And then I gave an extra bonus thing here. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I'm so fucking cool. I did so much. And the next minute, I'm on the ground. So my success was completely stomped out with burnout. And now I'm tired. And I share this with everybody because I want you to know that I may be a coach. I may be doing the multiple six figures. I may be doing all these things, but we are human and we have to keep regulating, keep looking. It's not a one-stop shop. I'm a manifestor. That's it. I'm done. It's a forever checking in thing, right? So, okay, I overdid it. So now I have to regroup. I don't energize overnight with my sacral because I'm hungover today emotionally.
Yeah.
So what do I need
Yeah.
to, how do I recreate that, correct that? So I think the bitterness isn't actually like unaligned. It's like signpost. It's a navigator, like, hey.
That's exactly, as a matter of fact, that is the exact word that we use for the true self and not self theme. They are signposts. Now, this is homeostasis. So because human design is about the physical body, when the physical body is in complete balance, think about that like homeostasis. So your true self theme of success. I hate that word for a projector. It doesn't resonate. I use the word appreciation because when you are being seen and heard, you feel appreciated and you appreciate to make better. You make the other person better. So, right. So think about the true self theme and the not self theme like signposts. And as you run off into bitterness, it is literally your physical body being like, Victoria, you're acting like someone you're not. And that feeling will continue to get bigger and stronger until you, right? So you mentioned something really important. You were like the personality side, and that's your, that's like your star sign and all these things. If there's one thing I want to impact and blow everybody's mind who comes across human design with, it is this simple fact. When you're looking at the human design chart, you see everything in black and you see everything in red. And everything in black is your personality, but it also represents your consciousness, not just your conscious awareness, but your consciousness, the aspect of you that existed long before this body, the aspect of you that will exist long after this body. But in this body, your consciousness has an imprinting, and that's what we call personality. And this is what we receive at the moment of birth. It's our personality. But everything in red, which is considered our design, which is considered unconscious. And when you think about the unconscious mind, it's 95% of our brain power, our heart rate, our autonomic functions, our nervous system, our digestion. It is the mind of the body. So when you're looking at everything in red, think about this like my body. And when you're looking at everything in black, thinking about this, it's like my personality. This is who I think that I am. And the personality treats the body like a slave. And the body, with all of its wisdom, with every single cell in the body, trillions of cells, all with its own innate wisdom, the body always knows when enough is enough. The body knows when you're hungry. The body knows when you need to sleep. The body holds the spleen, right? So the splenic awareness, all of our inner authorities appoint inside the physical body. But most people are wrapped up in such deep dysfunction because they're trained in the mind. They're using the mind to make the decisions, and they're using their open centers as the authority on what decision to make. So for example, when you have an open ego, you're making decisions based on if you are good enough or worthy enough, or if people are going to see you, right? If you have an open root, you make decisions based off of stress. If you have an open emotional system, you're making decisions off of your emotions, and none of those things are the guidance within your body that leads you to a consistency. So we have two types of conditioning. We have mental and emotional conditioning, but then we have physical conditioning, because these physical bodies are biochemical factories. That is what they do. And these physical bodies get addicted to certain types of hormones like stress. And so hypnotherapy helps with the mental and emotional wounds conditioning aspect of it. But what you're talking about right now is what human design talks about when it comes to conditioning. And this is a 7-year cycle, because these bodies, our cells die and are reborn. And every 7 years, we get a brand new body. And so as you're like, I know I'm going unconscious, you're feeling this biochemistry inside of your body shift you and pull you and produce these chemicals that say stress out, overwork, under nurture yourself, right? And so it really is this complex, beautiful knot of what is this and what is happening and where is this going on and what true self theme, what not self theme. And at the end of the day, here is the cheat sheet, right? Manifestor, efficiency. Let's get right to the finish line, right? If everybody could really understand their true self theme versus their not self theme and how that feels in the body, and if you could recalibrate yourself throughout the day into that true self theme, you are living your design, period. Doesn't matter why, doesn't matter what, doesn't matter. Because the mind is always like, but why am I doing this? And where did this come from? And this is my gate 39, and this is my right? But the body only cares about one thing. And that's how it's it's feeling. That's the current chemistry. And we have two options, Victoria. It's so funny. I'm gonna say this to you knowing that like you know. Like when I'm gonna like someone say it to you anyway. Because people need to hear this. We have two options. We can either accept our current emotional state or we can reject and deny it. But when we accept how we're feeling in the moment and we use our awareness and we witness this feeling, right? So as a manifester, my true self theme is peace. And so I can be in that moment of like deep stress. My open root is a bitch, right? And so I'll be in that moment of just like intense stress in my body. And I can stop in that awareness and say, wait a second, I've lost my peace. Where is my peace? And I can choose to say, I am stressed out right now. I'm going to feel this feeling. I'm going to do whatever I need to in order to move it through and find my peace. And for me, when I'm stressed out, that usually means like go be a manifester and scream in a pillow, right? Or like punch something or work out, right? And move my way back into my true self theme of, whatever that means for you.
That's so beautiful. And I think that I do a lot of somatic and dance and all that stuff now. I used to be like, oh, that stuff's a waste of time. I'm really efficient. Like, let's go. I'm very masculine and I've got all like, I think apart from my discipline arrow, like all the arrows are left. So I am very like that whole active masculine energy. And I can only be disciplined when I want to do something. Like I can't make myself do anything because I'll literally fall asleep. When I was doing hairdressing, I was like nearly falling asleep when I was doing hair because I wasn't meant to be doing hair. So the body is so intelligent. But yeah, it's really interesting. So today I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I think I overgave. Oh shit, I've got some bitterness. Oh, I'm not wanting to interact with my husband who's very calming. And, I just know because you go into this spin out. Like it's like, I'm busy. So it's like I can see myself observing. So I'm like, hang on, I'm going to change this because I know what I'm doing. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting. So the first thing I said to you was like, I'm tired. I'm actually like emotionally hungover. And usually I'm like, I'm so good. So not making it wrong either. It's like, I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm this, I'm that. But also like, this is what's going on for me because the wind is changing, or it's this full moon, or I'm feeling this way. And I think owning how you feel without oozing it out, is really powerful. So it's like, well, rather than bypassing it, rather than, pushing it away, it's like, I love how you said, how do we like unwind this? How do we go through these processes? And make it a beautiful process because we've been taught and conditioned to be perfect, do not complain, and don't be too emotional. My mum used to say, oh God, you're always emotional when you're tired. Like, oh, you're always so emotional, Victoria, or oh, why do you have to go so deep? So for me, it's really interesting because I'm like, what am I allowed to do? I'm allowed to
Right.
work really hard. I'm allowed to work hard. I'm allowed to be a really good person. I'm allowed to be on time, be a good sister. I have 4 siblings under me, right? So I was like, I'm a mum. What was I doing at 10 years old? And how does that affect me now at 40? And I think these
Yeah.
conversations with the hypnotherapy and understanding the person's design, like I said to you, I use the strategy, the authority, the numbers and the open centers or defined centers in all my coaching. I cannot coach someone. I can't even be a friend with someone without knowing their design. If I'm running with a friend, I'm like, by the way, you better get onto that chart because I need to know who I'm running next to because
Yes.
I'm that hypersensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Well, you know what you just had said, and this is a trap that a lot of projectors get caught up in because you are deeply conditioned. Well, like, what am I allowed to be? Who am I? What am I allowed to do? And all of those open centers start to step in and amplify that energy. Now, as a projector, it's not that you just need to be recognized for any old thing. You need to be recognized for who you are. And that's your definition. So for you, you need to be recognized for your intuition. You need to be recognized for your love. And you need to be recognized for the poetic and articulate way that you speak and the things that you share through your voice. Those are the things you need to be recognized. But the second somebody starts to recognize you for what you can give, what you do, how hard you work, your emotional state, how much you hurry, how much you hustle, your mind, what you're thinking, that's the second that you're being recognized for something that you're not. And you will fall into that space of bitterness because it doesn't, it, for somebody to recognize your conditioning, it just reinforces your conditioning, right? And so I love that you use it in all of your coaching. I think, and I'm a little impartial here, I think everybody should be using human design. And even if you don't have a solid understanding of all of the nuances in it,
Mhm.
you nail, all you need to know is your type, strategy, authority. If you understand definition, cool. If you understand
Mm.
profile, and better. But just having the foundation of the most important aspect, because strategy and authority, it is a way to take the decision-making process away from the mind and give it back to the body. The body was always designed to be in charge of our decisions. The mind, this body is a vehicle, and it was designed to be a self-driving vehicle. The mind was designed to be a witnesser, a passenger, right? So like you as a projector, you are this incredible guiding light. You can coach, you can teach, you can share, you can lead. Your mind is an incredible outer authority for everybody who listens to your podcast, everybody who comes to you for help in coaching, right? But your mind sucks at making decisions for you. It does, right? All of ours does. And so that's what strategy and authority is all about. It's about because every decision you make puts you on a different timeline. And if you know how to make decisions that are correct for you every single time, your timeline is going to take you to a life of flourishing, right?
And that's so huge. And I see people coming to me all the time like, I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not confused. You know exactly what to do, but you're in your head. The most intelligent beings, meaning the people that use their minds and more like, I suppose, intellectual, if you will, to just, to blanket that. For instance, I didn't pass school, so I didn't use that type of my brain. I'm very intuitive and very artistic, creative, all the things. And the people that have been, I suppose, conditioned and been told that they're really bright because they use their brain, like use your brain. Like how many times do our parents say use your brain before doing that? But the truth is, at the end of the day, like your body, just like what we said, like my body, I'll start writing stuff down and I'll be like, okay, let's make the $1 million plan, da 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 da. And it feels good at the beginning. And then I'm about 10 minutes in and I'm like, oh God, yeah, nah, I'm gone now. But then I'll have a splenic thing. Like when I messaged you, I was like, want to be on my podcast? And then we both just kind of, I don't know, you came back to me ages after. I was like, oh, I forgot I even messaged you because I'm so quick in that moment. And then I carry on. And then I messaged you again because something popped up. I was like, oh, want to be on my podcast again? Like really quick, And you're like, sure. And I'm like, oh. So it's like, I don't even need to think when I'm deciding things. And my generator 5-1 emotional husband who works in our business, like this is our business, he does all the back end stuff. I'm like, we're doing a masterclass in 3 days. I need this and this. And he's just like, what? This isn't in the plan. I was like, I don't give a fuck about the plan. The plan's completely changed. I don't give a shit about the plan. And he's just like, Victoria. And I'm like, I can't use my brain. I can't stick to stuff because I'm listening to me, It doesn't mean I don't have stickability in some loose structures, but people come to me and they're so confused. What do I do? I'm not good enough. And I'm like, the book, The Untethered Soul, I'm listening to that at the moment. And it's so amazing because it's like the voice in our head is always commentating with everything. And that's a conditioned mind, right? It's like constantly telling you, you're not good enough. Should you do this with your prices? What are you doing? You don't, blah, blah, blah. Like it's, you would kick out that flatmate like within a day if that person actually existed, but they're within you. So it's like nearly the authority and the conditioning. It's like, it's kind of like the difference. I mean, I don't know what you'd say about that, but I kind of feel like that's the difference. My spleen is like, bang, 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 or no. And my brain is like, gotta do the thing, gotta, like we promise. It's like it's slower.
Yes, and I remember the day that I woke up and started assigning my open centers to that narrator. I remember just tripping out so hard because and witnessing, observing, right? Passenger caught just fully observing. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry it up. My life isn't moving, it's things aren't happening quick enough. I'm gonna miss out. I remember sitting there being like, holy shit, this is all open route narration. This is literally the narration of my open route, right? And oh my gosh, I haven't done enough. I am not enough. My business isn't enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good at, oh, I don't know what enough is enough. This is literally open sacral, right? And so that narrator inside the head, I remember, and you can go back to every open center, every open gate that you have, and that narration that you're talking about, it all goes to it all goes back to kind of those that openness. That's what our conditioning is. And I wish that more people really understood that. And here's the kicker. When that narration is coming in, guess how you feel? Wah, wah. Not self-theme. So this body is always producing a chemistry in that moment. It's your signpost. So if all you ever did every single day was notice how your body is feeling, then you go to your brain and you're like, well, what not self narrator am I listening to right now? Right. And if you could just kind of reverse that, ask yourself the not self question, find yourself back into that true self theme that literally is what the work is. That's the deconditioning. This is how we start to live our design on a day to day basis. But I am telling you, Victoria, this is high end human designing. And most people are not in the space that you're in or that I am. And you know what you said earlier, and it was so beautiful, it was so true. If you ever come across a human design coach or human design teacher who claims to be completely deconditioned,
Mm.
away as fast as we can. Well, wait, I want everybody to hear that because this is a way of life.
Mm.
We will never be fully deconditioned, not after our first 7-year cycle, not after our second 7-year cycle, right? Not ever, because we are opened and we are living in, I love the sacral soup. We're living in the
Yeah.
emotional, we're living in the sacral soup, we're living in the not self soup of the world. And there's always work to do, whether it's our work or it's work for the collective or it's work for our ancestors. We came to do the work. That's the contract we made when we entered into lives in this time space reality.
And it's beautiful. And this is what I take people through my magnificent mediumship program. So it's like, it's not just about talking to dead people. That's such a limited perspective about mediumship. It's about consciousness. It's about expansion. It's about the tools and the processes and the human design, all these different things. And it's like, when we're in our not self theme, I feel like everyone's trying to find the answer to fix. It's like when I get to the house on the hill, which I actually am on the house on the hill now. When I get to the house on the hill and I have the new car with the sunroof and we get the boat, everything is going to be perfect. And it's never, ever going to work that way because until you die, you're always processing and you're always learning and growing and expanding. So I think when we come into our not self quite often, I can really only speak for myself. I'm like, what is the solution to make everything be seamless and perfect? And I'm a 3-5, so I'm always going to be smacking into the wall to find the frickin' door. Everything is always a messy process for me. I'm a creator, I'm an artist, I'm a visionary, which means that I am messy as fuck. Full blown hand up. I am messy. I am not necessarily with my house, but I am messy a little bit with my house. So it's like, it's just a little bit. It's like, it's who I am. And it's an ever growing and moving evolution, but you're never there because there's always somewhere else to go. So instead of trying to get to that thing to make you happy, like I get a real trigger when people say, I just want to be happy. I'm like, well, happiness ain't out there, mate. Like you can win lotto. I'm making like 28 times more money than I was making 5 years ago. And it's like, I'm still me. I'm still me. I just don't have to focus so much on how I'm going to get food for next week. I just don't have to put my mind power to that. It's more like, oh, but I'm still moving and growing, but it's not there. So I love how you said that and reframe that for all of those people who are like, when I've done this for 7 years, I'll be aligned. And so many human design gurus are saying that, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's misleading, right? What I've started to do, especially as a splenic being, I've stopped looking at my day because we all just generalize these things. I had a good day. I was a bad day. It was a bad week. It was a bad year, right? I don't know. A lot of people know this about me. Some people don't know this about me. My youngest, my 5-year-old, has severe to moderate autism. So he doesn't verbally communicate. He's still not potty trained. We've gone through a lot of it's been really hard. It's hard to raise a special needs child. It's hard when your child is not like the other children, right? And I think that autism has taught me so much in terms of this wasn't a bad day. We had a hard moment and then we moved through it. And then we had really peaceful moments. And then there was poop all over my house and all over my carpet that I had to just literally, and then I cried for 20 minutes. And then that hard moment was over. And then it was a better moment, right? And so, if I could, I love what you said because people do, they're searching for this fairy tale life. And life is about the small moments in between. And if all you could do is recalibrate yourself back to your true self theme. So, generators into success, projectors into appreciation, manifestors into peace, reflectors into surprise. You'll look back in your life and realize all of the happy moments that you lived in every single day. And then the hard moments that you're going through, they're not so bad because the narrator inside of your brain isn't saying, my life sucks and this is so hard and I hate, being a special needs mom, or I hate my husband, or I hate my this. It really is just like, yeah, this moment sucks and I'm going to move through it, you know?
Oh my God, you're like literally. This is what happens to me when something resonates so hard. I'm just like, I just want to burst out crying because so many people are trying to fix everything. And I have never realized how crazy sensitive I am. Like, I'm a really hypersensitive human being. I mean, so are you. I'm sure. I think it's like a splenic thing. You're like, oh, my husband comes up behind me. I'm like, ah, like, I'm not afraid of spirits or like dark energies. Like, I'm like some boss babe, freaking entity clearer, psychic medium, time traveler. But a human being, like if even some up behind me, I'm like literally like, oh, don't stand behind me. And I don't have trauma per se with anything like that, but it's like, holy shit, we need to remember we are here in this like library of life. The whole thing is an experience, and the sooner you stop trying to get out of the experience and get to the destiny, literally, as soon as you stop doing that, and I love how you said that, as a moment. So yesterday I was like, oh my goodness, now I'm going to define this and say it was so much fun while I was in it, but then I burnt myself out because I overgave, and I need to relook at that. And I went into my not self theme, and now I'm tired. And it's going to take me 2 days to get back. It's like, hang on, no. What if that was just a moment of, I'm tired now? That's okay. You're going to rest more tomorrow. What if we didn't define it or make the poop incident or the husband incident or the whatever, like the client showing up 20 minutes later, I don't know, whatever. What if we just didn't let that ruin our day? What if we just went, right now I'm feeling this? And because, you being splenic or us being splenic, it's like now where emotionals, I get a lot of people say, this person made me feel this way. And they start spiraling, and it will be like 4 days of fuckery because they'll be like, and this person said this to me. I'm like, how are you even letting that person dictate your emotions? Because the truth is they didn't make you feel a way. They just, it's kind of like an ego trigger. It's like they pushed a spot, which is probably to do with the 10-year-old self. It's got nothing to do with what they said about the dishes and wiping down the bench properly. It's got nothing to do with that. It's this whole thing from over here. And this is where that hypnotherapy to actually, I've been thinking about you and hypnotherapy, and I've been thinking, I think a lot of my rejection wounds are coming from childhood, from a particular parent, because I was being recognized for my not self, and they don't recognize me for version. They don't even acknowledge what I do for a job. They think what I do is bad, and I get absolutely no recognition, or I'm not even seen. So for me, that wounding, that isn't the 40-year-old Victoria. I can make that a drama and go into it, or I can say, this is literally the 10-year-old. There's obviously something to do with my 10-year-old I need to look into. I keep mentioning it, but it's the 10-year-old self who goes, right, to get her and him to love me, and to do this and to do this, I'm going to have to play these certain roles. And I didn't even know who I was until I started waking up. From about 35, I started going, holy shit, I'm not who I thought I was at all.
Yeah.
And most people don't recognize me, just like you said with your aura, right? It's like most people are like, ugh. where and some people are like, oh, like girl fanning. It's like, oh, this person really likes me. I trigger people like totally crazy. Like people will literally, I can just mention the word money and people will just go, see you later. I want out of your membership. Goodbye. And I'm like, what? Like I trigger the shit out of people and not everyone is going to like me because I've got that 5 line. So I'm literally like, people love me or don't love me. And not many people stay with me. It's like a reason, season, or lifetime. And then I think we need to be careful that when our rejection wounds come up or whatever the wounding is, that's when we can get a professional like you to go, let's go into it deeper and actually find out, not guess, but let's actually look at what's really going on because your wound, this pattern that constantly happens is not everybody else, darling.
Right. And not only that, but that pattern is happening because the prime directive of your unconscious mind is to keep you safe, alive, happy, and healthy. And when you have these repressed dysfunctional wounds, the unconscious mind will constantly bring them up in the form of a trigger to say, hey, you shoved this in the closet all those years ago. Are you ready to process it now? Right. And until we're aware of that, we just keep shoving it back down and shoving it back down. And so I see more emotional wounds in childhood and projectors than any other type.
Mhm.
And the reason is because your purpose for existence is the other. Your existential question is, who are you? You need another person to guide in order to be a guide and a leader. And so so projector children have a bigger attention cup than any other children. And when they are not seen and heard and recognized and validated and wanted as children, it creates even deeper craters, like massive wounds around rejection, not being invited, not wanted, not loved, not good enough, and deep sadness within all.
Mhm.
So that's actually, you had mentioned something about the emotional system. And this is what I have found when working with emotional clients. We are all conditioned in our society that we need a reason as to why we're feeling the way that we're feeling, right? When we're little kids, especially emotional kids, they don't have a reason. They're emotional. They're going through emotional waves. Why are you sad? I don't know. Because I'm feeling angry right now. I don't know. But what happens, and there might be a reason, but a lot of times there's not. And so the parent walks in and goes, well, why are you happy? Why are you sad? Why? And so the emotional being mentally grows up to seek out, why am I feeling this way? And in that process, they start to assign people, they start to assign reasons. And this is where mental bypassing begins because the mind thinks that if it can conceptualize why they're feeling the way they're feeling, they won't have to feel it. Because heaven forbid you feel pain.
Mm.
Heaven forbid you're uncomfortable processing a negative emotion, right? This is the type of world we live in. You can't feel pain. That's wrong. That's bad. Shove it under the rug. Don't look at it. Ancestral wounds, ancestral wounds, right? We can't face it. We can't confront it. And so this is why you get all of these emotional beings who are obsessed and they keep talking about it. So what I say to my emotional clients is stop trying to figure out why.
Mm.
Start figuring out what. Who cares why you're feeling that way? You're emotional. Like so for your husband, for example, if everything in your life was going perfect, he would still be emotional
Mhm.
because he's an emotional person, right? They're designed to have emotional waves. And so we start to say, what is it that I'm feeling? And how can I move myself back into my true self being? And it's amazing in a hypnotherapy session what a massive disconnect there are between so many emotional people and their physical body because they're not trained to feel their feelings. They're trained to disconnect their mental body from their emotional body,
Mhm.
process their emotions from a mental perspective by trying to figure out why, right?
Mm.
So it honestly is one of my favorite things to talk about in terms of human design, in terms of therapy, because
Mhm.
it's just a different way of looking at and processing and working with emotional clients, working with the emotional wave, working with emotional husbands.
And it's really interesting with my husband because I've been with him for 24 years since we were 16.
Mhm.
And he was like, and I'm 40, so we had a 2-year break, like when we were like, before we nearly got married the first time. We've had a whole life together. But like he would go through these waves and I would be observing, and then the ego would come in and he'd want me to feel what he's feeling, right? So this is pre-children and stuff. So until I came down to that level where I was like in despair because I was like, oh my God, I'm so bad. I'm such a bad person. Then he would feel okay because it's like I know that sounds terrible, but it's like this ego, right? Trying to bring it in. But now when he does a wave, because I know this, I'm like, okay, I can feel that he's starting to go into, he's a very chill and beautiful, laid back guy. He's like we're yin and yang pretty much. And but then he'll go into it quite deep. And I'm like, he's in a deep wave. And my son, he's like, Daddy's in a wave. I'm like, yep. My daughter is like, it's okay, Daddy, because she's emotional as well. So she's like, it's okay, Daddy, I know how you feel. And she's rubbing his head and telling him how amazing he is because he's like, oh, thank you. Because he can feel it because they sympathize so deeply. And I'm like, this has got nothing to do with me. So if I say that wrong thing, right, if the bench isn't wiped down or he's feeling like he's underappreciated, so he's finding that reason why, which we know has got nothing to do with it, right? Because the rest of the time I can poke him, I can ask him anything, and he's like, okay, babe. So I just don't make it about me. I just
Yeah.
go, he's in a wave. This is not about me. I'm good. Like, I'm really good. And he can literally say anything, do anything, blame me for anything, as long as I had a standard, like, do not push me too far. Because if you push me too far, I will explode on you. Like,
Amplify your emotional wave, and like nobody wants that, right?
yeah, we don't want that. And I'm going to amplify you and you better run, boy. But it's like, I just go, this is a wave. This is not my thing. How can I support you? But also, if he wants that love and attention when he's in a wave, I can't give it to him. I'm like, no, because I'll get sucked in and I don't want to be like, come here. Oh, look, I can do a little bit, but I can't fully immerse myself into that person's sacred aura because I will get gobbled up. So I've kind of put these strategies in place where it's kind of like, you're on a wave. I'm not going to tell you that because you'll bite my head off. We'll talk about your waves when you're in a high. Because the high is another level. You're like, oh, okay, here we go. Yay. This is fun. But it's really about managing that without meeting ego versus ego, because I think that really kind of comes in as well. So I've just got to say, I'm just looking at the time, so we'll round this up, but human design is a game changer for families as well as business, as well as the individual self, obviously. With my kids, they never slept properly. I couldn't put them into routines. I didn't know how to routine them. It was being a child. Oh my God, being a mother of too many gens. I thought I was crazy. I thought I was the worst mum in the world. But then I just realized there are many gens and I had to go with them, and my parenting isn't that. I was just listening to what they needed. My daughter's up and down, my husband's up and down, and my son is defined ego. So he's like, let's go. And I'm like, okay, because I love being around him because he gives me so much fire. But if I didn't know about human design, I'm not trying to put them in boxes at all. If I didn't know that, I would think that there's mental health issues going on big time. I would be putting them into boxes that didn't fit into society. Like, or you know what I mean? Like I made myself wrong for years and years. I thought I was depressed and anxious and I didn't know I was an empath. So human design and then to layer hypnotherapy on top of that, to go, I can help you, is amazing. And the last question I had for you is like, if 95% of what we're doing is kind of unconscious, right? And because, I keep mentioning my 10-year-old self. I don't know what the hell happened to me when I was 10. I've got a funny feeling it has something to do with me pleasing. But when you've got a little spark like that, and you don't have an issue per se, but you're like, there's something here. Like, how can people recognize that so they know whether they need to get a hypnotherapy session, whether they know they need to unlock, or does everyone just need a hypnotherapy session?
Well, I mean, not everybody needs, right? And that's a good question. If you would have asked me that question when I first started, I would have been like, everybody needs it. No, everybody needs everything, right? But I'm to this point where I'm just like, a lot of people will feel triggered on a very regular basis. They'll feel like they're completely out of control of their own emotions. And that is a huge sign that they need some emotional healing. Some people just feel stuck. They feel like there is a hill that no matter how hard they try to climb it, they just can't move past that hill. Some people find themselves in a space of just like deep burnout, deep confusion. Other people will come to me and say, I don't even know what the problem is. I just feel blocked. I feel trapped, right? So there's all of those things. And then we can also look at dysfunctional patterns of behavior as a reason to come, self-sabotage, patterns of addiction, relationship patterns that reoccur over and over. Those are all reasons why people come to see me too. And then also like trauma that you know that you have, right? I also do work with a lot of empaths and psychics and healers because the unconscious mind is so close to spirit. As a matter of fact, spirit speaks through our unconscious mind into our conscious awareness through imagination. And that's the language of the unconscious mind. So anytime we're getting downloads or visions or symbols or colors, this is spirit speaking to us through the unconscious awareness. And it is amazing how many psychics, intuitives, healers will come to me and we clean out the crap in the subconscious mind, and their intuitive gifts are on another level because they're not coming through a dirty filter, right? So all sorts of different, you know, people coming my way. I think one of the biggest reasons, because I, on a very regular basis, ask spirit and I ask my guides to throw people my way. Like, hey, go out and find the people that are really in alignment with the work that I do. And you'd be amazed. And you probably experience something really similar with your work and how many people come to me and say, I just felt really called to you. I felt like I needed to have a hypnotherapy session with you. I don't know why, right? Stuff like that. So I'm a very big believer of like, you know what? Law of attraction abounds, and people who need the work that I do are always going to find me. And it always does. It always works.
Perfect. And coming into 2027, obviously, we need to start following our inner guidance and our, without even knowing why we're choosing things. And that's where that mental game is, like when people always like, oh, do I want to invest in this? I don't know why I want to do your program, Victoria, or I don't know why, Tresa, I want to come to you. That's why I reached out to you and go, how do I work with you? I think that was the first thing I said. How do I work with you? And you're like, oh, this one, like I just kind of feel like I need to be like with you, like being coached, but I don't know why. So it's really good to talk about that, to reframe, if you will, because hypnotherapy can be seen for giving up smoking or weight loss or a deep trauma. And society has told us that you've got to be wrong or something's got to be wrong for you to get help. But the thing is, in this experiment, it's like, hang on a minute, the deconditioning process is there to start, and we're forever going to be deconditioning. It's not like you did with the law of attraction and you do all this stuff and you're like, I've done these things. And you're like, well, why am I still getting sick? Why is this
Right.
stuff still happening?
Right. Because and your reality is always a mirror. Your outer reality is always a mirror for your unconscious programming in your inner reality. And so one thing I always like to tell people is, well, is your life perfect? Is every area in your life exactly the way that you want it to be? Oh no. Well, there are either limiting beliefs or repressed negative emotions in that area that you are completely unconsciously aware of. Let's shift. Let's put you on a new timeline, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm in the most, oh, by the way, my incarnation cross, so I'm a left angle cross of spirit,
Mhm.
right? So I do a lot of, and that's what you look at my Instagram page and because I'm not really woo on my Instagram page, but I do a lot of work with spirit in my sessions. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I will watch these clients catapult into completely different people, different versions of themselves, different lives. I've worked with clients who have been in talk therapy for like 10, 15 years, who have tried everything. And then we work through hypnotherapy sessions. And in real time, I get to watch these incredible humans start to step into themselves. They walk out of this emotional prison, like shedding a skin into
Mhm.
something completely different. It's the most rewarding job in the entire world.
Ah, that is so good. And thank you so much for all of your time today. And it's literally like just the top of the iceberg when we're talking about obviously, I talk a lot about human design, obviously, because it's a huge pillar of my reality, my business, everything. But to layer that hypnotherapy on, to give people an understanding of how it can be used, rather than just like, you have to do this if you're broken. It's like, well, actually, maybe I could start doing this because the limitations, the limiting beliefs, or literally that trauma that's locked in there somewhere, which a lot of it's unconscious and it's coming up in a way of signposts like, why does this thing keep happening? Or why do I feel this way when people keep leaving me, right? People are always going to come and go, but why do I feel the wound? So, there's a signpost, right? So it's not necessarily exactly what's happening to you because things are always happening. It's how you're reacting to it. And I think if you do get that charge, it's like, oh, okay, I need to go in.
Yeah, we get this, right? Our generation, we didn't come to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That our parents came to survive, our ancestors came to survive, and they did a good job. We came to thrive. And we are this incredible generation who is standing up and saying survival isn't enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to shift these patterns and I'm ready to absolutely thrive, right? So I feel that so much from you. I feel that so much in the work that you do. I'm so deeply honored to get to have come on here and just to
Oh,
get to share space and energy with you for a while. So
it
thank
has been
you.
such an honor, Tresa Rivera. What a name. And I am so grateful. I cannot wait to get this out to the world. And this is going to be something that is something. It's going to be everywhere. So it's something. It's going to be an interview that I believe is going to show, well, I'm showing vulnerability. I'm really working on showing vulnerability of what it means to be a human entrepreneur and a mum and all these things. It's not about being perfect. And also, you're really just going deep into your story and you're a mum and you have everyday things and how you deal with it, and rather than people looking at us on pedestals going, they've got a platform, they're doing these things, I can't be like that. It's like we are all doing the thing. So take what you want from this, listen to this 28 times because you'll get so much from it. We've just like really infused lots of codex in here, but not only that, the vibration and the energy and the frequency and the vulnerability of coming together and doing this for the world. I trust that at least one soul will completely transform their life and take a step, So if that's all we accomplish, then we've done our job. But also, what if this ripple effect could affect millions and millions of people just from feeling the vibration of this? And I quite often say to people, if it's too much for your brain, put in your earbuds and go have a sleep and sleep to these conversations. I quite often do that if I can't quite consciously grasp something. I'm like, oh, that's too much for me. I don't get it. I just go to sleep and sleep with it. And then you'll feel that you've just been activated. You've gone through a healing. You've gone through this upgrade and you don't know what's happened. But that is what this is about. It's actually about the vibrational frequency upgrade as well as the information and all the things.
We're all in this together, right? We really are. And it's so beautiful to me to have this spirit community, this human design community, to get to commune with people around the world who have the same mind and frequency and embodiment, right? Like we are on this journey together. And so many people out there, they feel alone in their spiritual awakening, in their self-development journey, right? Like I live in Reno, Nevada, here in the United States. And I don't have any in-person friends. All of my spiritual friends are in a different town. And so I know that there's a lot of those people out there listening to this, right? But you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in this one earth, this one planet, and there is one big electromagnetic, emotional, sacral ego, all of the frequencies that we're all emitting. And you nailed it, right? When we are emitting this type of love through our defined identity centers, both of us, it is sending out into the entire world. And I think that is the best idea I've ever heard. Just put it in your headphones and fall asleep to it.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
subconscious is going to be getting what you need from it. That's great.
Exactly. I listen to my own stuff with my earphones and I'm like, I want to go to sleep. I'll listen to one of my own meditations or one of my own trainings. I'm like, holy shit, this is not me. This is totally channeled. I'm like, like just go to sleep. Oh my God. So where do we find you? So obviously on Instagram, we've got the human design hypnotherapy. So that's super easy to find in the search bar. And what is your website? I'll pop it in the show notes, but for just for those who don't go into show notes that listen, what is your website?
It's the same. It's humandesignhypnotherapy.com.
I knew that. Okay, I just wanted you to say that. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this conversation and keep being funny. Keep doing your reels. Your reels are extremely educational.
Thank you so, so much. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the time with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Tresa. Thanks, guys.